This is an ultimate global podcast. Hello, and welcome to our Daily Dose podcast, covering all about day-to-day global affairs. You're listening to Saurabh Kora and George Mavros from Sydney.
Hello, and a very good evening to everyone joining us from Sydney and around the world for our Wednesday's Daily Dose on global economy, business, and technology. And as usual, I've got Shubham, who joins us usually for the business segment to talk about different industries. Last time we discussed about the travel sector, and this time we are talking about the media industry and how the media industry has slowly and steadily moved towards this direction of being independent to now becoming dependent on certain stakeholders of a democracy or any country in that matter. Welcome to today's Daily Dose, Shubham, and I'm quite excited to talk about this topic with you.
It is a very interesting topic to talk about, Saurabh, given that we are on UGP at the moment, which is one of the faces of media in today's world. So I believe it is really important that we address this issue as well.
Absolutely. And why this issue is really important for us to know is that every time we talk about media, we talk about an entity to which we look at, and we can just look at unbiased opinions or hear unbiased thoughts at that platform, and probably a platform where we can listen to both the sides of the story, both the sides of the coin, so that as an audience, I'm at a better position to evaluate. Yeah, I listened to both the sides. I heard both the sides. And after listening to both the sides, that's what I decide. But when you only listen to just one side of the story, and one side of the story is broadcasted to you and publicized to you, or probably marketed to you in a way that the second side is considered to be irrelevant, then there is a big question on how independent the media is, isn't it, Shubham?
Definitely. But when you're saying that broadcasting one side of the story, Saurabh, it is always important to look what the story has in mind and who is it benefiting, right? Often at times it does happen that when the media houses are big enough, there are ulterior motives behind certain things as well, and even as viewers or even as experts, so one may or may not be aware of or may not understand. So it is important that apart from just listening to the news and looking at that, people also look at the facts themselves. I think that is true independent media when people start actually looking at analyzing things from their own perspective. That's where they decide, okay, this is one side of the story again. Now, this is my side, what I believe, this is the side of it. But coming back to the part where we talk about independent media, definitely, I think even now, there are media houses who want to talk about both sides. But again, we need to look at how is it constructive criticism that they're looking at, or is it just negative criticism? Because that makes a major difference between what independence and dependence of the media is about.
And also, I feel that, as an audience, people might also want to understand that whenever they're listening to something, they should not be reacting to that, or, just listening to it blindfoldedly by completely agreeing with what the reporter is saying. Or
Mhm.
probably, at this podcast, what Shubham is saying or what Saurabh is saying is correct. It might not be correct. We are just sharing our opinions with you. Now, you can have a different opinion as an audience. And I think it's very important that in most of the countries, we have got now smart audiences who are able to understand the difference between independent and dependent media. If you look at the World Press Freedom Index, most of the countries which rank in the top 4 or 5 are the Scandinavian countries and the countries towards the Western Europe. If you look at the developed countries, like Australia ranks 25th, UK ranks 33, United States ranks 44, India is way down at 142, China is nowhere close to the top. In fact, it's leading from the bottom. And quite similar to a lot of other countries whom you would expect to be somewhere in the middle, But what I can really see from this list is the Scandinavian countries are the ones which are leading the chart, probably suggesting that is the world less political there, or the media is really independent.
Well, it's a difficult thing to say, but given the progress that the Scandinavian countries have made in the world today, uh, it is. But it's really important that we look at what they have done with everything, whether it's related to policy changes or reforms, and whatever act that they have put forward, it's always been way ahead of most of the other developed countries in the world as well. When you look at even the World Happiness Index, if you look at that, the Scandinavians are really, really high on those index. So, and all these things often contribute to this particular freedom, right? When they've been given the choice to do things on their own. Now, they haven't been restricted, and that way, when people are not restricted, they know what they want to do, right? So there's no point of stopping those people from anything. So probably that's why I would say that we see a lot more of their input and freedom in the Scandinavian countries. But again, it's really hard to say why to the very depth as to why is it happening. What is your opinion about it?
No, absolutely. I would generally go for my research whenever I talk about something. And if you look at some of the reasons why the rankings have been falling, is even in democratic countries, the rankings have been falling. Some of the world's largest democracies, who also market themselves as having an independent pillar of media, are falling in their world press index. And the main reasons is that they don't have an authoritarian setting there, but still they are getting prey to more nuanced efforts to throttle their independence in a way that it's targeting their businesses. So I think media houses are now more considered about their businesses, and it's kind of connected directly under the government in most of the countries, isn't it?
It is. Uh, I wouldn't say in most of the countries that it is worried about the businesses, but definitely it's like um, any media house, whatever they're running for a motive, right? And at the end of the day, when you're running a business, it is for a motive of probably profit or reaching out and things like that. So they're not wrong when they're trying to protect their own business. But when you look at that, what happens is that, and it's incentivized for them. So, but at the same time, you need to see what is on the other end of the incentive. Is it really an incentive that they're looking for, or is it just a carrot approach?
One
Like
of the
you don't know
elements
whether
also
it's
I
the
want
carrot
to,
or is it the stick.
yeah, yeah, that's true. One of the elements that I wanted to discuss with you was this scandal of Pegasus software, which came into news 2 months back in various countries. And this company was supposedly selling a software to carry out surveillance on journalists, activists, and also political leaders across different countries, which is kind of quite a dangerous thing if it was to be seen by the reports. A lot of reports have suggested that it was able to spy into a lot of leaders and journalists, and on the basis of that, some of the countries also took actions on this software, and some of the leaders were
I
quite
believe
precautious
sort
while
of
speaking about that.
these were when we're talking about the software, it was not particularly targeted towards journalists. It was sold to the governments, right? And what the government does with the software is at least sold to the government to ensure more security for the governments and the nations, right? To make sure that they are targeting the right people when it comes to um, breaking organized crime or other activities related to terrorism. But now, how the governments are using is completely different, right? So, if we outrightly say that it was sold for this purpose, I would say we would be saying that it is wrong. right? So probably it was sold to the governments for a certain purpose to enhance the security of the nation, but for what the reason that it was used for may not be completely what the motive behind making that software would have been.
Exactly. If you look at Shubham, the top 50 countries in the world, based on their economies or based on their GDP size, they are ranking across this press freedom index. Some of them are at the top, some of them are in the middle, some of them are ranking at the bottom as well. So it somehow also suggests that these elected leaders in a lot of democratic countries, where you might consider media to be independent, are trying to silence the voices of certain people and promoting feelings or notions in a specific direction, isn't it?
Oh, definitely, Saurabh. But I believe when we talk about the downgrades in various countries, it can not just be rooted to political reasons, but also legal and economic factors that have changed and are continuously persuasive towards this thing, right? Violence and harassment of journalists have happened over the past couple of years, which was evident even in the previous governments or the new ones. But certain governments in the past 5 years or 10 years of time have really changed the course of how media houses operate. And it's not just they're not just trying to contain the media houses or the traditional media houses, but also the ones related to uh, the upcoming ones, let's say like the social media houses, right, which are just present digital media houses in that respect. Now, the thing is that where do you draw the line? How do you draw the line? Those answers are certain things that we need to look for. And until unless we're doing that, doesn't matter how much we debate, how much we talk about it, things wouldn't change.
Yep. And I was also listening to one of the journalists from a specific country. Generally, I don't prefer to name any specific journalist or a specific country. So we'll keep it anonymous. But what I was reading about that journalist, he's a very popular journalist. And what he was saying is that if you have to change the way media looks, you as the audience have to change the way you perceive the media and what you see at the end of the day. If you keep on seeing something which earns the business houses more power to showcase what they are showing, obviously at the end of the day they will show you that. So you as the people have the power to make that change. If you decide what you want to watch and what you don't want to watch. If you think that is something, is if a media house is not independent and if you don't want to watch that, you make that choice at the end of the day, instead of leaving it to the media houses directly, because it can be the reverse cycle also, which might bring on the change here.
For sure. Sort of when we look at these things, again, what you said that as as citizens of that nation, we need to focus on what we want from those media houses as well, right? Because it's very evident. Okay, let's put it this way: you are a shopper, okay, and the media houses are the retail stores. You move from one to one, whichever place that gives you the maximum content, you'll go there, right? Now, if you like that particular content, you'll watch more of it. And when the person sees that, they'll know that, okay, this person likes certain things. So they'll give you more of that. And that's how the cycle continues. So we need, like you said, we need to be really, really conscious about what we ask these media houses to do and what we expect out of the news that we're looking for. Wouldn't you agree, based on this thing, that it is really like you said yourself, this consciousness needs to come from within. There's only so much that you or me or anyone else can do. Until unless people want that particular change in themselves and focus on, okay, am I getting the right? They start need to ask asking the they start need to start asking the questions. Am I getting the right information or not? The thing is that most people wouldn't want to get the information by looking for it. They want everything to be handed to them in a silver platter. Now, once we move from the silver platter to our own research, that's when this gap will be bridged.
Yep. Yeah, because I was previously, you know, believing the fact that most of the media houses are being controlled by different agencies. But when I heard the other side of the story from that journalist, I in fact understood that probably it's the reverse cycle, which might also bring a transformation in the media sector. And it's not solely about the independence of the media houses, but also about how the consumers choose what they want to see, what they don't want to see. But it's going to be a very tough thing because uh, a lot of the leaders, in terms of the political leaders, the business leaders, have been trying to control their consumers or their voters in a way that they are forced to see certain kind of videos as per their interest areas, and the consumers don't have any other choice except of liking that video or reacting to that video, maybe in a bad way or a good way, but still they are following that page, but they are following that particular platform.
No, for sure, Saurabh. What you're again saying is that let's put it this way before we end the session. Um, it's not just about the independence of media houses, but it's
Mhm.
also about the independence of the person's mind who's looking at the media houses, right? How independent are our minds that we can actually focus on the things that we want to do and figure out the difference between the right and the wrong, again, which is very subjective and may differ from person to person. But again, is it just the media houses that need to be independent or people's thoughts that need to be independent?
And one of the things, before we end today's session, another point of discussion that I wanted to raise is the fact that one of the reasons which we can also witness around the world, which I was able to research on, is the rise of the right wing populism, somehow rising in some of the countries, which has been linked to the independence of the media as well. Because what that right wing populism can be linked to is undermined basic freedoms. It has undermined the basic freedoms of the people, in the sense how they look at. Because whenever you try to connect to certain ideology, populist leaders will always present themselves as the defenders of an aggrieved majority. That's the most popular way of working for a right wing populism, when you try to become the defender of an aggrieved majority against liberal elites and ethnic minorities whose loyalties they question, and then they try to argue the interests of the nation and connect it to the notion of patriotism. So I think that is something, an interesting phenomena, which can be linked to this independence and dependence of the media industry, isn't it, Shubham?
No, definitely, Saurabh. Again, like you said, that there's always right when you say that the right wing populism and like you said, majority of the times they are acting against the liberal elites and the ethnic minorities. Now, again, the thing is that what do these people really want, right? It's not just about the aggravation, but what is the motive behind that? Is it is it again whether like do they actually care about it, or is it just the political reasons? Do they want to show that particular picture which is out there, or is it something they want to look at from every angle? But no, what we'll only see is that even if they're aggrieved, they'll always show just one side of it. And that's why this thing, the independence of media houses, has actually gone really, really down. If you look at all over the world, like cultivation of pro government media is spreading, right? And this is again happening because of certain people in the country. And these leaders are the ones that have created that culture. And as long as those governments are in power, it's very difficult to make amends to what has been done.
Absolutely. And
So
I
it
think that's
definitely
why
makes
that's why people nowadays are also starting up with some new initiatives. One of the initiatives, as you can see on your screen, is Ultimate Global Podcast. We have definitely tried to be as independent as possible. Even if we discuss about certain topic, we never try to take any particular sides. And before we end, we always leave this discussion open to you without taking any particular sides. And we leave the discussion up to you to decide what you think is right and wrong for you. Don't think about a particular individual. And that's what you need to understand. Whenever you watch any news video or whenever you read about any news, don't blindfoldedly believe in what that news channel or news anchor is saying, because he's just showcasing you an opinion on the basis of facts. Now, the news which is broadcasted these days is mixed of facts and opinions. You need to look at the facts, you need to listen to the opinions, but not believe in those opinions without bringing in your logic into the picture. And I think that's where the audience need to apply a kind of a filter before they receive that news and digest that news. Somehow, most of the people who listen to the news, they don't apply any filters and they will receive the news as it is. And because that journalist is saying like that, I think that's true. Or because that journalist is taking that side, I think that's true. Because we are not ready to go deeper and understand what's the news, what's it all about. So I think that's where as a consumer, because we are talking about business segment today, as a consumer, the role of a consumer is equally important. Any final comments, Shubham, before we end today?
No, I was actually going to talk about this, but you already said it that the role of the consumer is extremely important. And again, reiterating the previous example that I used about the retailer and the consumer, right? We need to make sure that whatever content we are getting from the retailer is appropriate, is of high quality, and for that we need to be aware of what that thing is, right? When you go to a particular outlet, you see the quality of the cloth that you're going to buy. Okay, and similarly you should be aware, okay, this is what this person is saying and this is what the fact is. Now what do I think about it? The I think is what is going to change the independence or dependence of media houses.
Absolutely. What a wonderful way to end today's podcast, Shubham, with those crucial points that you raised. And hopefully, we can discuss about more industries in the coming Wednesdays. We talked about the travel industry, we talked about the media industry, and probably we might touch base upon another industry in the next week, probably with Shubham and few more guest speakers. But for today's Daily Dose podcast, that's it for today. And we also invite you to a very special segment of Daily Dose on Saturday. We have never come for any Daily Dose on Saturday, and this week we are not having any Daily Dose on Friday. It's getting replaced with the one on Saturday, where we are going to celebrate the birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi from India, in collaboration with UNSW Sydney. So it's going to be a big event. I will share the links with you all in the comment section. So feel free to join us. And Shubham is also going to be there as one of the speakers. So he will also be welcoming with his great words on that day. And we are all eager to listen to Shubham on that day again. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Always a pleasure.